So it's this weird thing of life where everybody thinks that where they're from is the only place where people know how to drive. And I'm no exception. I grew up outside of Detroit, right, a car town. And where I grew up and where I learned how to drive and where I'm from, people drive fast, but they drive well, right? Like outside of Detroit, you'll get cut off on the freeway, but you'll be like impressed that the person cut you off like so smoothly, right? As you're going to the exit. And you'll try and like maneuver your car into a spot, right? And you'll kind of screw up and someone will honk at you and you'll be like, yeah, that's right. Yeah, I'm like below the standard, right? So you feel shame, right? But 15 years ago, right, I moved from Detroit to here, to Philadelphia, right? Where people drive fast, but not necessarily expertly, right? A friend of mine described Philadelphia driving as predictably aggressive, right? Like in whatever situation, whatever the most aggressive thing that other driver will do, that is what will happen 5 times out of 5, right? So when I got here, yeah, I was really confused, right? I would be on the freeway and I would get cut off and it seemed like someone cut me off just to slam on their brakes so I could run into them, right? And when I put on my signal, right, in Detroit, people interpret that as you want to get over to the other lane, and they say, okay, yeah, we'll let you get over the lane. Here, that's when everyone closes ranks on you, right? They're like, don't let this person into the other lane. And then the weirdest thing about Philadelphia driving is that where I grew up in the Midwest, right, when you want to turn your car, right, you put on your signal, you slow down, and you turn. Here, people slow down, start turning, then turn on the signal, if they do at all. But that wasn't the aspect of driving that I really got hung up on, right? I figured out that sort of driving here. It's parallel parking that was the hard part for me, because I didn't really do it growing up, and I had to start doing it when I got here. And so now, right, now I got it, right? I get the idea. Parallel parking it's all a state of mind, right? You have to be ready for it. You have to take a deep breath, and then you have to go into it with like no fear, right? Right? Fear causes hesitation, and hesitation causes your worst fears to come true. I didn't write that. That was Patrick Swayze from the movie Point Break. But like that's how you parallel park, right? You get in there and you make big turns, right? Big turn into the spot and then big turn the other way. And looks like your car is going to hit the other car, but you just kind of decide that's not going to happen, right? I knew none of this when I first came here. And parallel parking was really anxiety-inducing for me because as a Midwesterner with Canadian heritage, I'm extremely polite, and the idea that someone has to wait for me to park is just caused tremendous anxiety in my brain. And so one day, I'm trying to parallel park on this like tiny 1-lane road in Philly, and I just sort of space out. Like I'm halfway in the spot, halfway not in the spot, and I go to like a different place until I hear someone start yelling. It was a warm day, right? My windows were down, the other person were down, and it was a driver trying to get by who just yells, "Hey, move your freaking car!" And it was one of those things where like you're all of a sudden in a conflict situation, and I didn't really know exactly how to respond to that. I was new in town, so I just kind of responded with the absolute truth where I said, "Oh man, I'm sorry." I yelled out the window, "I'm sorry, I just sort of spaced out." And he yelled, "It happens!" And I finished parking, and I thought, oh, I get this place now, right? Everybody just has somewhere to be, and they need to be there. It's not that they're mad at you all the time, because that is definitely what I thought for about the first 3 years I lived here, that everyone was just angry at me all the time. It's just that they're very direct and honest. And where I grew up, that's not the way people are at all. In the Midwest, people are very nice, but they are not very helpful, right? I personally have seen friends of mine give the wrong directions to someone because they didn't want to seem like they didn't know where that person was going. Here, if you ask for directions, people will evaluate you based on where you're going and sort of judge you, but they'll get you there, right? So I understood that, right? And what makes this story bittersweet is that I'm leaving town. I teach for a living, and I got a great job, but it's out of town. And so I'll be back for the summers, but for 8 months out of the year, I'm going to be living in North Carolina in the South. And I went down there to check it out, and people there drive nice. Slow. They let you change lanes. I didn't hear a horn. They park in parking lots. And when you are leaving a place, as you're getting ready to leave, right, you get nostalgic even though you haven't left yet. And things just sort of remind you of the place even before you go. And I was driving around the other day, and I live in this neighborhood, and I had to have been a student because there's a car with Florida license plates, and it was trying to parallel park, and I was trying to get by, and I could see like the kid's trying to park the car, and he's super scared, and I saw this look in his eyes, and I recognized that look from the rearview mirror all those years ago, and I thought about the way that Philadelphia stranger extended grace to me, and I laid on my horn. Loud, you could hear it all the way to Tacony. And I thought to myself, with a little bit of the time, that kid's gonna learn how to drive. Thank you.